अगर आपका ड्रीम है कि आप Amazon, मेटा, मॉर्गन स्टैनली, गोल्डमैन सैक इन बड़ी कंपनीज में आप एज अ सॉफ्टवेयर इंजीनियर काम करना चाहते हैं और इवन आप अब्रॉड में चाह रहे हैं कि आप काम कर सकते हैं कि नहीं, उसका कंप्लीट क्या रोड मैप होना चाहिए? एंड इफ यू डोंट माइंड, व्हाट्स योर करंट सैलरी एट Amazon?
You do get paid handsomely, but the responsibilities are also going to be a lot. And expectations from you is going to be a lot. And at the same time, you can get laid off in 2 weeks. Layoff thing in US is extremely bad.
Let's talk about the complete roadmap. What's the worst thing and best thing about software engineering?
Oh.
Today we have Aman from US. Currently, he's working as a software engineer in Amazon, US. So, Aman, welcome to this podcast.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So, Aman, please tell us about your journey from like how you shifted from Mumbai to US and also from your college journey to Amazon till today.
Maybe I can take a moment to introduce myself. So, hi everyone. I'm Aman. I have about 4 years of work experience now. I did my bachelor's from Manipal Institute of Technology in Karnataka, and I did bachelor's in computer science. Studied 4 years there, then joined Morgan Stanley in Mumbai, worked there for a year, switched to Goldman Sachs in Bangalore for another 2 years. So worked 3 years in total in India. Decided to pursue masters, so I got admit from University of Massachusetts in Amherst, and I studied masters in computer science for 2 years there, where I interned at Meta and Slack Labs. And then post my graduation, I joined Amazon as an ST2 right now. So I'm working currently in Alexa Plus, and yeah, that's pretty much about it. I was not super focused on getting into a MAANG company in like US. I was always sort of interested in the niche that I wanted to get into. But it all worked out. So when I was doing a master's in computer science, I was super interested in these things. So I interned at Slack National Accelerator Laboratory. That was my first internship. I took courses that were super NLP based at that time. So I joined my master's in October of 2022. And in December of 2022, ChatGPT was launched. And it took the whole world by a storm. And it was something that nobody even understood completely, but it was just working and people could not understand. And I don't know if you remember the initial versions of ChatGPT, but it was just putting out random stuff. Now it's like super useful, and we've got to there after multiple rounds of iteration. So yeah, and that's the benefit of the education in US, is that my next course was an NLP course, and it was completely sort of based on these LLMs, and literally what happened a month ago. So I was literally reading and learning the cutting edge from one of the best professors in the world. So that gave me like a huge boost and an exposure to sort of pursue this field. So in my last semester, I was fortunate able to score an internship with Meta. It was basically a research project. And we worked together for about 4 months. And we wrote a research paper that seems to be doing pretty well on LLM as judges. At that time, when I graduated in 2024, the most looked out skill was expertise in LLMs, because everyone wanted to do something with the LLMs in their product ecospace. So when I was interviewing with Amazon, basically at that time, this is 2024, in 2025 we launched Alexa Plus. So we took another 9 months to build that. And at that time, they were looking for engineers who had expertise, who can understand, okay, how do these prompts work? How do these prompts are being cached? And so I had some expertise over that. I had very good programming knowledge and decently good at lead coding. So I think everything worked out and I was sort of hired. So that's like from my college start to the Amazon journey.
Okay, and if you don't mind, what's your current salary at Amazon?
I think my current salary is at par. If you can look it up at levels.fyi for like any region for Seattle. I think the current par is about 250 plus. And so I'm currently in SD2, so that is something that you can take it on. But here it's pretty straightforward if you get hired by any FANG company.
And what do you think the salary difference between Amazon India and Amazon US? Is there any difference in salary?
I think so. So there is a bit of, I mean, so I'm as I'm aware, Amazon India for SD2 also pays extremely handsomely. And here also, it's literally at the top of the chain. But between the India and the US salary, there is always like about 2x or 2.5x of difference. And that's mostly because of the purchasing power. Like in India, you can have like an apartment with the rent maybe 50,000. Here it'll be like 2.5 lakhs. So those things are like 5x, or like groceries are like 3x. So by that ratio, the purchasing power is also like 2.5x. And the salaries are 2.5 higher. But yeah, I think more or less people seem to be doing well either way. My motivation to come to US was more on the work culture and the innovation that keeps happening here. Like even right now, US is like an early adopter of all of these technologies and will continue to be there.
Okay. Are you using any AI tools on a regular basis?
I actually exclusively now have started using AI tools and I've stopped using my brain. No, so I use ChatGPT a lot for my research. I really like their deep research feature. I use Claude for about 80% of my programming. It's really good. And now we have like well integrated AI tools that are like CLI based that can work inside a code repository. So the AI knows every file and it knows that I can call this function from this file in that file. And once it's able to do that, it's very easy to code. And yeah, so I've been extremely heavy on Claude and ChatGPT.
So, Aman, let's talk about the complete roadmap for students who want to work in abroad or US, UK, anywhere as a software engineer. So, what strategy or what roadmap should they follow?
Yeah, that's a very good question and something that like I did not have honestly at my time. So I'm very happy that you're putting this together for everyone. Because most of the people who come to US are coming with big loans and responsibilities, and they want to have some clarity on how this this whole roadmap works. Yeah, so if you're new to this field and your dream is to sort of work in US in a hopefully in a big company, you first doing a bachelor's in computer science is really not necessary. So one of the easiest way to come to US is through masters. And masters the masters admission committees, they won't care if you're doing bachelor's in computer science or bachelor in computer applications, or if you have bachelor in chemical engineering. What they look for is your depth and your breadth in this field. So you will have opportunities to showcase that using your statement of purpose and your letters of recommendation. So think backwards from there, right? There's two steps to this roadmap. First is getting an admit from a good university in US, and the second one is getting a job here, right? The first step is getting an admit from a US university. For that, figure out what your niche is and why you want to use that in US or anywhere outside of US. So for example, if you're into security, why do you think that going to US is going to help your career? That's something that's very important to think. Not just like an opportunist way, just like, okay, now I have to go because it's the rite of passage for every male Indian person at this point. But it's more like, okay, I want to do machine learning, and I think the research at machine learning is in these US universities. Or for security, I know that Johns Hopkins is a very good university. One of my seniors graduated from there. So work backwards from first the how to get an admit from your masters. For that, you will have to write 1,000 to 1,200 word SOP. which is going to talk about what was your inspiration and what are your experiences and projects that have made you fit to work in this climate. So, for example, are you able to handle open-ended problems? Or like so one of the reasons why like people with experience have a good chance of getting in these universities is because you get used to working at open-ended problems and brainstorming and putting together a solution that's innovative and scalable. And then those are the things that they look for, right? They look for that, okay, you are actively working in your field and you can handle open-ended problems. You can express those problems in the simplest of terms and then make incremental progress on it and show impact. That's basically what they're looking for. So if you're a university student, take the first year, explore what you want to do, pick out a niche as quickly as possible, and then start working towards it. If you're really into research and you're coming here for research, start contacting your professors. If you go to any professor in India, they will happily accommodate you. They will tell you what they're working on and they will get you started. And it takes about 4 to 6 months to write a paper in a peer-reviewed journal. So that is very critical, and that's very short timeline. So you have to work with your professor to sort of figure out iron out a problem statement, work backwards from a 6-month conference deadline, and get that paper out, and then keep doing this, so that you can, in very comfortable terms, explain that, oh yeah, I'm not just interested in machine learning. I'm actually a full-time machine learning researcher. I'm supposed to be here. This is where the best research is happening. Nobody can deny me this admission. That's the kind of narrative you want to push, because you will have about 1,000 applications for about 20 seats. That's usually the ratio in like the best universities in US. So that's the first thing if you're interested in research. If you're interested in just being like a software engineer, just a generic software engineer, then there are a couple of ways that you can do. You can use your experience to get here. The first thing is, if you've usually spent about 4 or 5 years in a company, they may also consider you for transferring internally to Amazon. One of my dear friends actually came from Amazon India to here, and he's at the same rank as me. And he worked for about 4 years. So you can come here on an L1 visa, which is an executive visa. And for that, you have to showcase that you are experienced and your expertise is needed. So that's the one way where you become a very good software engineer, you become indisposable, and then you move to the US. That's one path. The other path is you can come directly. And directly by me, you won't be able to come to US, but you will be able to come to every other country. Because when I was in India, I was also interviewing for like companies in Dublin, sometimes in Germany, and they are always looking for people who are good software engineers and who can handle impact and scale, and just poach them from India. So you can do that and you can still settle abroad. Every country is more or less the same. It's just US has the highest purchasing power, so the salaries are high. Apart from that, the third way is to do the master's route. So for master's, you have to again speak to yourself that, are you into research or not? If you're not into research, then you have to be really, really, really good at competitive programming. Right, because you're going through the generic route. This is where the entire crowd is. There's about 2.5 lakh people, I think, who come to US every year for masters, and 50% of them are just coming for computer science. And about of those 50%, 90% are just generic software engineers. So you're in that crowd. So be cognizant of that, and also be very, very good at lead coding, system design. Those are the two things that you have to be very good at, because you won't be hired for entry-level roles anymore in this country, right? If you haven't showed those skills. So for software engineering, lead coding is the topmost priority. If you are interviewing, you will have to, like, Amazon has about 2 rounds of DSA, Meta has about 2 rounds of DSA, Google has about 3 rounds of DSL. So be careful about that. Second thing is system design. System design is something that is um, is very important and not being taught or sort of socialized in India as much as I would like it to be. Because the need of the hour is I can code. I can use Claude to write better code, better than I can code. So now what is my use then? Why am I still here? It's mostly because I am still needed to design and orchestrate these extremely complicated systems that have about a terabyte of data that needs to be processed every day. And those are the problems at scale that you need to think about, and how would you design that and make sure that it's a completely robust system that's operationally efficient and doesn't require manual intervention every now and then, right? If you're able to do that, I'm pretty confident, and if you're able to lead code, I'm pretty confident you can get into that. So these are like 2 or 3 paths where which you can sort of chart an India to US software engineering route.
Okay, I think the roadmap is pretty much clear. So talking about the Amazon, Meta, these all are product-based companies, right?
Yeah.
So why didn't you opt for any service-based companies? Like what is the salary difference between the product-based companies and the service-based companies in US or in any abroad or in any country? Like
Yeah, that's a very good question. Usually you will find product companies to be paying at least 1.5x service companies. And the uh, um, reason is that product companies make more than service companies. The outcome of product companies are products. The outcome of service companies are engineers and the churn that they go through. So I personally always prefer product companies because you're more of a first class citizen here. So I was working at Goldman Sachs, and that's not a service based company, but it's a financial company. So the outcome of a financial company is making money, right? So every engineer that's working in Goldman is trying to enable traders to book trades, or is trying to save money through automation, right? So you're always a second class citizen, sort of, right? Unless you actually learn a lot of financial domain and can then start working very closely with business. In a product based companies, the product is the outcome. Yeah, the customers are interacting with the product, which is backed by technology, which you have built. So you are first class citizen. You your skills and your upskilling is responsibility of you and your company, and your well-being is more looked into than service-based company, I feel. Service-based companies, it's more like you have to go through churn. The more churn you go through, the better you do, because the expectation is, oh, so for example, you can have a contractor be like, let's get a contractor, let's do this old database migration to new database migration. That's like a service based contract. And usually service based companies will abstract all of this for you. They will take 10 contracts and then they'll be like, okay, this is an engineer who's going to work 9 months on this project, this is an engineer who's going to work 8 months on this project, and then they hire engineers because they know this kind of stuff is going to keep coming in. So from their perspective, it's okay, I need to get this contract out. So I need to hit that 8 months of doing that database migration. Everything is scoped out for me. I just have to go ahead and do it. And that's the sort of service basis area. In product base, it's really back. It's working backwards from the engineers itself. Like I have to go and pitch an idea. Like when I joined in Amazon, my manager, first thing she said was, you tell me what's wrong and we'll put you on a plan to like fix it. And I was like, I don't even know how anything works. It's like, okay, fine, you learn, and then you because we've been working here for like 1 year 2 years, so we know this architecture pretty well. But you bring some outside perspective and experience, so maybe you can help us optimize a lot of these things. So it works backwards from there, and you're working with more creative problem statements, and you're also delivering creative solutions. And you need more expertise, talent for product based company.
Like you mentioned that salary is 1.5x than in the
Yeah.
service-based companies. So competition is pretty much higher. So how to beat that competition? Like how to stand out?
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. That everyone who's applied for a service-based company is applying for a product-based companies, right? So you always have service-based companies is always a subset. The superset is always the products that have led to the creation of these service-based companies. So how do you stand out? It's very difficult. Have hope and really work very hard. I think the thing that's always stood out, if I stood out, I'm not sure, but if I stood out, it's mostly because of a niche. Like I was really good at something, and I could make a persuasive argument always that okay, you're interviewing with 1,000 people, but I am really good at this one thing. If you really need this one thing, then I'm the guy for you. And I know a lot of people in product based companies who've gone in based on the same principle. Someone was really good at networking and then they got into like a good, like Citrix, Cisco company. Someone was really good at open source and then they got into Microsoft, GitHub, and they're working there. So I think that's how you like stand out. Like try to be as less generic as possible. Like even if you're working on front end and you need to have expertise over React or Angular, right? And then you have to make an argument that I'm the best person for React, right? Everyone knows what React is and what components are and all these things, but I can get you to create a website within 2 days that does XYZ things. So, and that comes from practice and experience. So I would recommend like that's how you stand out.
Focusing on a specific niche, then becoming a like jack of all trades.
Yeah, I mean, so there's a I'm not sure which book I read, but there's if you rate all your skills on an x-axis, right? So the people who have been successful have usually had one big like expertise. So this is a bar graph, and these are all your skills. They usually have one that's like super standing out, and rest of them are like medium. And that's usually the case of like successful people. If everything's medium, you are not standing out, right? But if you have that one thing, that tells me two things that okay, this person has a niche over this. And second thing is this person has a niche over this and has experience over all of these. So those are transferable skills. If I have expertise over React, which is just fundamentals of software engineering, then I can apply it to React. I can actually apply it to backend systems as well. I can apply it to security as well, because at the end, it's all software fundamentals that they look for. So that's kind of like how I would ask your viewers to like rate themselves, put all the skills, and then make sure that you have some knowledge of them. It's not like you're just sitting under a rock, but you do have expertise over like a couple of them or sing at least one of them.
What are the top 3 books that you should read as a software engineer?
Yeah, definitely. So when I was in my undergrad and I was preparing for, so I was actually, if you don't know, I'm actually very bad. I used to be very bad at computer programming. I was always a developer first. I loved developing. My first internship was developing an Android application, and then worked on websites, like I said. So I was always a developer at hardcore. I got into machine learning and all these things later. So, and to get into all these things, you need to have very good programming. You need to be a not competitive program, but you need to have very good programming. So I read Cracking the Coding Interview at that time, like very religiously, page by page, taking the moment to try to understand how do you approach like a problem statement. That was the first book, and that just helped me get praised. That was like the book, because in bachelor's, I think all my interviews were just lead code. And that at that time there was no lead code also, I think. We were just doing HackerRank, and I don't know, Code Forces was still there. So Cracking the Coding Interview was the book that was super useful to me. Second thing is there's a book called Designing Data Intensive Applications. If you are into data, which I am a lot, that book is like a Bible. for all of us, because that book will go into the basics, the rudimentary knowledge that's required. How do databases work? Like, how does, when you write select star from city where Seattle, how does that work? What happens underneath the engine? And then how do you create efficient databases, and how do you maintain redundancies, and how do you scale to a terabyte, 10 terabytes of real time data? um, it's really like a very good book. So those two books are there. There's a third book called, I think it's Grokking the System Interview. And that book is also very important. That book sort of taught me how to like create systems in general. Like for example, so for system design, the very few people know that there are some frameworks of thinking, mental models. Like for example, you can have a client server architecture, you can have a peer to peer architecture, you can have a public pub sub model, publisher subscriber model. You can have socket programming, real time. That's like always there. So there's a lot of frameworks, mental models that are there that I was not aware of. So though that book really helped me in that. Yeah, I think apart from that, I just read a lot of newsletters. So like if even if you're not into like books, or if you have the patience for books, subscribe to like good newsletters from like good influencers that you respect, and they usually put out some really good content.
So, what do you think? What's the worst thing and best thing about software engineering?
Oh. So yeah, the worst thing definitely is that you would go days without programming. If you, the more senior you go from so from an entry level to a mid level to a senior, the trend that I've been seeing is that the more I go in depths of this, the less programming is there. The difficult part is always working backwards from a business use case and how to create the impact. What is the design that we need to get there? So it's always like at Amazon, I would probably spend about 20-30% of my time coding, but most of the time I would be writing documents, getting that review, talking to product managers, trying to get idea of where are the scopes, where are the gaps, and what is the scope, what is out of scope. And then once that is done, I'll do a design review with my team, try to understand if like their pain points have been addressed, because as a team we have to support this product. And then I will finally, when everything, all the requirements are ironed out, I'll just take 2 weeks to just code everything out. So, and that's usually the life cycle of a product based company. It's usually iterative waterfall. Like it's expected to, you're expected to iterate faster on your products, but it's also expected that you take some time to write down your requirements, do up phase 1, phase 2, phase 3 of your product launch. So that's the worst possible, like not worst. I mean, it's just as a programmer, that's like something that whenever I don't get to code, I just go on lead code and do one question to quench my thirst for programming. But the best thing is that I would do this job for free. That's the best thing. Like this is so fun. Any day, like this is probably the most fun thing to do. Even when production breaks and like you have 50 people on the call shouting, it's still the most fun thing to do, in my opinion, because it's extremely creative field, and it's always like it's always like a treasure hunt. You have to like go, there's hints in logs, there's hints in how people like talk, and they've set up their dev setups and all those things, and you are always trying to decode everything, and then you write a code, you write test cases for it, you think what could be something that breaks my code, and then you're always in that thinking mode, and then something always comes up that breaks your code, and then you're like, okay, now I learn and I become better at it. So it's really fun and creative field. So that's the most important part.
And have you faced any like bad office politics, or did you get into some like chaos or something? Or any
uh
advice for?
yeah, office politics, pretty sure you can't avoid it. uh, Have I faced bad office politics? 100%. That always happens. How do you navigate this? If you're in a job that you feel you are underappreciated or not appreciated, just leave. It's okay. There are a lot of jobs in this country, in India as well. You know, my mantra is always like, if you're good people don't complain, they leave, right? So if you're like underappreciated or you feel like you're not growing at the rate at which you would like to, you should just make it very clear and look for other opportunities. The interesting thing is when you have office politics going on, but you are very interested in the job itself. You are driven by the mission and the motivation and the product, but there is office politics going on which is stopping you from accomplishing that. That is when you need to sort of work with your manager and be like, okay, there are people problems that are like not enabling me to get this job done, and I need your help to like work out with this senior engineer or work out with this product manager, right? So it's very important to have the distinction between the two. If you're not interested in the mission and motivation and you're just doing the job for job's sake and now you're frustrated, I think it's better to leave. But if you are interested in the job, and it's always common, like senior engineers will come with driving their own hidden agendas. If I was reviewing my junior's document, I'm pretty sure I'm going to have a hidden agenda based on my learnings in the team, right? So it may be for the greater good, but it's slowing me down. It's blocking me, and then always like the credit distribution is not going to be like complete, and favoritism is there. All those things are there. But if you maintain good relationships, there's less chance of this happening. And to maintain good relationships, you have to just accept criticism and at the same time talk to your peers, like be frank with them on like what is the expectation and are they doing a good job at this C code review, or maybe the learnings that they want to share from their products. So try to have as good as relationships possible. And if you're getting slowed down, if you're getting blocked, if you're not making progress, but you are super interested in the mission, you want to get the job done, then talk to your managers and try to work out like, okay, how do I stop these people from like influencing my work so much?
Yeah, definitely. And my last question, like, do you have any warning for the future software engineers who think that their life will be sorted if they like shift abroad or in any other country?
I think a lot of people come here because of the salaries and all those things. But the people who are successful here are mostly the people who had really organic, genuine passion for software engineering. So because eventually, like you have both sides of the coin. You do get paid handsomely, but the responsibilities are also going to be a lot, and expectations from you is going to be a lot. And at the same time, you can get laid off in 2 weeks, right? There's no the layoff thing in US is extremely bad, right? So the people who are successful here, in my opinion, are the ones who actively like shown extreme passion for it. Like the difference I'll talk about is like in India, everyone in my team or wherever I worked was okay. You know what? Like let this problem go. We'll delay this for 6 hours, and then the US people will come in and then they'll take this for me. That was kind of the culture that I was that's how I started. And people were not reluctant to take on projects and initiatives. There was always like the managers would be cherry picking, like, hey, you take this and you take that and you take this. Here it's the absolute opposite. If there's an initiative, people will jump on it and they will fight for it. And they will make a very persuasive argument that I'm the right person for this job. And there are like three passionate people fighting for the same project. So it's from that POV. If you're a software engineer who's coming here, do have genuine passion and knowledge, and you should be interested in the mission, because that's expected of you, that you will be jumping on opportunities. Nobody's going to come to you and tell ki you're doing a good job. You have to do a good job, and everyone will have to like observe it and then realize your potential. So that would be, I won't say warning, but that's like a general piece of guidance. Second thing is, if you're not, the biggest warning that I will say is, if you are not upskilling, then you're probably not going to survive in this field for long. It's just the example I gave at the starting of the interview, that the Nvidia stock went from $9 to $110 in my own lifetime. Not even in my own lifetime, the time when I started education and when I ended education. So it's we and future research, like something like an aha moment, or like a very innovative research can wipe out $1 or $2 trillion of the market. That's how influential research and upskilling is in this market. So if you're a software engineer, most important thing for you is to take some time always out of your day to read, learn, and upskill.
That's all for this podcast. I hope it would be very helpful for your software engineering career. And thank you so much, Aman, for doing this podcast. I hope you enjoyed it.
Yeah, this was extremely fun, and I wish everyone all the best.